Oh, we're live? We're streaming right now? Cool. Awesome, man. Let me just,
What is going on, everybody? Minus here from Pantheon Plus. And tonight is the debut show that we're doing. It's called Rank 'em. We put it under the just chatting category because we're going to be talking about so much stuff. I don't really know what else we'd put it under. So I guess that's going to be how we roll here. And every week, what we're going to do is we're going to have a topic that the community decides on, and we're going to rank our top 5. It should be pretty controversial because everybody likes a ranked list, and everybody pretty much disagrees on every ranked list that's ever been. So as people on the show, myself, Mica, and Leksur, our guests tonight, I'm sure we'll have plenty to debate about, and we'll be reading the chat all night. So you guys can actually go ahead and throw in whatever you want about tonight's topic. You can roast us for our choices and all that type of stuff. You can also rank the hosts. That's fine. I will be last if I know anything from the voting for draft. So, but the way the show's going to work.
The hosts' beards.
Oh, can I use pictures? Can I use old pictures? Can I use old pictures?
Mine is well kempt. I even trimmed it today for the show. Otherwise, I kind of looked like a hobo.
Oh, nice. So, so the way this works is every week, Mica and myself are going to be the permanent hosts. So you always have Mica and myself here, unless some kind of crazy worldly thing comes up and we can't. But we're going to be running this show as co-hosts. And the third spot will always be our guest spot. So tonight, luckily, Leksur's like, yeah, I'll be the guinea pig. Let's make this happen.
Makes me look bad.
Yeah, so if anything goes wrong with tonight, we blame Leksur. If everybody can make sure we're all in on that, that would be great. So tonight we're actually going to be talking about the top 5 MMORPGs of all time. Now, this is a personal ranking. We're not doing this through statistics, through subs. We're doing this through our top 5 MMORPGs. Now, someone asked, how can we vote on topics or make suggestions for topics? It's very easy. You just go to YouTube, our YouTube page, and click on the community link that's on the front of our page, and that will take you into an area where you'll see voting. Now, episode 2, we already voted on because we have to get ready in advance. Episode 2, we'll be talking about MMORPG loot, which is going to be a tough one, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah.
A tough one.
And I'm happy to announce, too, we did find our guest host. And I knew it had to be someone who played a lot of MMORPGs. So next week will be Mica, myself, and Nathan Napalm for that one. So that should be pretty good. And we have a voting up right now for episode 3. And right now, top villains in video games is number 1 right now. So you guys can vote on there. Then in the comments, you can actually throw in categories that you want us to do. So if you throw in good comments there, they may show up in the next poll that we do. So it's all about community. We're going to call out again what you guys are doing. And hopefully you guys enjoy the banter and banter with us. So someone's saying vote for the best villains. That's the best one. Yeah, that's going to be pretty good. So without further ado, I don't know how long this show is going to go. I don't think it's going to be as long as a Pantheon Plus U. Depends on the banter. Depends on what we want to talk about with these MMORPGs and how much we go at each other. But as our special guest, Leksur, you're going to go first. Are you ready? Are you ready to start this up?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Time to start the booze.
All right. Start up. So we're going to go ahead and you guys will see these are shown on screen. So let me go ahead and unveil guest number 5 rank from Leksur, the 5th best MMORPG of all time.
Yeah, the 5th one for me is Astaria, is what it's called now. It used to be called Horizons.
I'm so confused by that. I was looking for the logo and they were giving me these Horizons logo. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. No, I don't remember exactly why they changed, but when the game first came out, it was the first game ever that actually allowed you to play dragons, and they actually played differently. And they did a really good job with it. Their crafting was really, really good, really fun. And they had a very wide range of classes. You had the Blood Mage that everyone kind of talks about from Vanguard. It was a little different, obviously. I want to say it was before Vanguard. Could be wrong, though. And it's probably one of the most underrated MMOs I've ever played.
Now, I read that this game I can't say anything on it. Like, I can't debate you. Other than that, I've never heard of it, so it'd be very hard for me to put in top 5. But I read that they like tagline themselves as like the greatest crafting game ever. Like that's constantly what I kept hearing. Was the crafting that good? I mean,
The crafting was interesting. Let's put it this way, in a small scale, because there really was a lot to crafting.
Okay.
In the early days, there was typical crafting. You'd go to a node and you mine it. Well, this one crafter hit a very special node, didn't realize it, and it unleashed a plague on all the dragon players. A crafter unleashed a plague on the world, and it took the entire game population to work and figure out how to cure it.
That's actually kind of cool.
While that disease was active, dragons in Astaria on a one-to-one basis were way stronger than humanoids, but they leveled differently.
Okay.
They had different style of gear, and things like this disease, it made dragon players weaker than humanoids, just because of the major debuff that people got from it. But
it's a pretty cool story.
Most of the community at that time, or at least that era, they really didn't care that they were weaker. It was everyone banded together to fight this disease. It all started and it ended with crafters.
Stories like that are cool in these games because like Eve was one that had a lot of stories. I couldn't get into the game, so spoilers, it's not on my list, but I couldn't get into the game, but it had these epic stories like that kind of made it live on to even to people who didn't play it. I'm curious, in chat, has anyone heard of it? No, I'm not trying to throw shade at you, Leksur, but has anyone in chat, can anyone in chat say, I know this game? Put it in.
Still online today.
All right, there you go. Oh, Stands in Fire says yes. Stands in Fire has heard about it. Mica, anything on this one?
I've never seen it pop up on any lists.
Yeah.
I even do random searches for new MMOs to play, and I've never seen this even
It's not new.
Okay,
It's quite old.
Bronson said he's heard of Horizons. And I think somewhere deep in my subconscious, I've heard of Horizons. So maybe that's it. So
Most likely. A lot of people know it as Horizons.
yeah.
A couple of years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, I actually looked to try to get back into it. And I was searching for Horizons and I couldn't find it. And it was just by some luck that I think I was looking to see if maybe someone made an emulator for it. And turned out
They just renamed it.
this story, and I was like, oh my god, this is it.
That's awesome.
And I mean, they're still got a decent population from what I understand. Their average concurrent users are around 2,000.
That's not bad for a game I've never heard of.
And if you look at their website, I mean, the game looks very, very dated, but it is a very old game.
All right.
And honestly, I'd probably still be playing it today if it didn't have a sub.
All right. Micah, nothing on that one, huh? You got nothing to say? I got nothing. I'm done.
Never even.
Look,
Knew it existed.
Stands in Fire has said he's heard of it, and Bronson's heard of it. So you got some support there. I think some people just gave you some cred to throw out a game people don't know about. All right, Micah, so I'm unveiling your number 5. Here is your number 5, Micah. Guild Wars 2.
Guild Wars 2, yep.
So why Guild Wars 2?
So, number 1, I haven't played a vast amount of MMOs because I get so tunnel visioned when I have my main MMO. But when this came out, I started tinkering with it. And it's still something I go back to and I tinker with it every now and then. And just every time I go back, it's fun. I'm entertained. It's nothing I've ever really gotten into. I don't even think I've ever gotten to level cap on it. But I run around the world. I participate in the world events and everything. And everybody's been really friendly. And I just kind of have fun with it. And it's I don't really know what else to say. I also really like the way they did stuff like I thought the Mesmer class was really interesting.
Mesmer was cool. Cool.
And I thought it's the class where you make all the traps and everything. I can't remember what it's called.
Engineer or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But that was also pretty fun.
So Lex, what do you got on Guild Wars 2? What are your thoughts?
I'm not surprised to see it there. I don't think I'd ever say it would deserve anything higher because the game's kind of at a point now where it's like a westernized version of a Korean game. There's just so much crap shoved in your face to get you to buy stuff or do this or do that. It's like, geez, just let me play the freaking game, please.
It's funny because I'm going to say something about this game and it's going to be completely capable of saying it with my number 5, and I'm going to complain about it being your number 5. But that's how this show works. No healer. I get that people are trying to get away from the Trinity. I'm not a guy that wants to get away from the Trinity. I'm sorry. I like, I don't know. The game was fun. Me and Hayab played it. I enjoyed it. It was very fun leveling. I would not recommend boosting a character. That killed the game for me. Me and Hayab were playing. We were naturally leveling. We were having a lot of fun. We were taking our time, and then we bought the expansion and it boosted us. And I never played. I played boosted for less than a week and I never played it again. So if anybody wants to try Guild Wars 2, which it is a solid game, I think of the bottom 5 that I see here, it's probably the most solid of them, in my personal opinion. Even throwing mine under the bus that I'm about to show, I think it's a very solid game, but don't boost yourself. Just enjoy the experience if you can. It's very soloable. It's fun. The combat's fun. It's beautiful.
The exploration aspect and everything. That was really fun.
Yeah, I don't think Guild Wars 2, it was close. It didn't make my list simply because when I hit max level, the community attitude, at least on where I was on the server I was playing on, shifted. It went from everyone kind of being fun, loving everything, to people just being real jerks about, you have to know this dungeon or we don't want you here. And it's like, well, how am I going to learn it? You know, that attitude really turned me off. I still have like a couple of 50 pluses. I know my Necro's at 80. I think my Warrior's at 80. And I have it installed on my computer now, and I just have very little desire to stay in the game for more than 20 minutes because I love running dungeons.
I'm the same.
Mm-hmm.
When
I get to a group, they're like, well, don't you know the dungeon? Well, no, I don't. You know,
yeah, I gotta say, I'm on the same page.
Wait.
All right, so I'm going to unveil my number 5 here. This one's my most controversial on the list for sure. And again, this is our personal. I'm throwing Phantasy Star Online up there. So I had this game for Dreamcast, and then I got this game for GameCube, and then I played this game on Xbox. Had a buddy I played it with. I think a lot of people could argue that it's not an MMORPG. It's a lobby system. You went in with friends and you went into instances. But man, I love this game. Great console MMORPG. The weapons and the control of the weapons reminds me of like modern day, Monster Hunter, where you had to know the timing of your attacks. You couldn't just sit there and mash an ability. You had to know when it was time to press the buttons and do your combos. And it was fun. It was like segmented fighting and segmented areas and some cool boss fights and really cool items. So it's a weird one. I'm sure most people didn't expect me to put this on here, but there was a lot of really good memories across all the consoles. So I really enjoyed it. And it's funny because someone just stopped there. Ghostmind said he's playing PSO2 right now on Xbox. And I think you can pre-install PSO2 today at some point for PC. So I don't know that I could go back and play it right now, but as far as my experience has gone, I loved it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I had a lot of fun. Did either of you have any experience with this game?
Minor, very minor, because I didn't have a lot of consoles growing up, but I did have friends who had them, and I did get to play it sporadically. Yeah. And it was fun. For the platform and the era, I think it's perfectly fine to count it as an MMO because it did have a lot of people online during a time where online wasn't a big thing.
Yeah. Did you see what Bronson said? He said, number one problem, they don't even know how to spell fantasy.
So this is gonna be a controversial statement.
Oh boy.
But I've seen stuff for Phantasy Star Online, but it's done in the anime, and I just can't get into that.
You can't get into like the anime graphics.
I can't get into anime graphics. It just, to me, at this point, it's just so overused.
Yeah.
Even like outside of Japan, it's just like when they said like Castlevania was going to be done in anime style, and there's another thing that's being adapted to be and done in the same style, and I'm just like, oh man, come up with something more original. It's gotten to the point where I see this and it's kind of a turn off for me at this point.
That's fair. Chat,
controversial statement because I'm gonna get
no. I mean, the chat does not. There's not many fans in the chat. Drax said, not a fan. No anime. A few people have said they're not into that anime style. So no, you're actually. There's more people in chat, I think, that actually agree with you than me probably on this pick. So controversy is fine there. Controversy is fine. So let's get to number 4. You ready, Lex?
Yeah, my number 4 is the venerable Warhammer Online.
So why? Why is that it?
The reason it got there, I'm not even worrying about the bugs. That was a publisher problem. Warhammer Online innovated a lot of things that we think are great now. Dynamic quests from Guild Wars 2 came directly from Warhammer Online. The PvP in Warhammer was second to none. It was the very first and pretty much the only PvP where I got in full bore because it felt like a real war. Classes for the different sides were similar, but different. I mean, you could make the connection easily enough, but they still played a little differently. That stayed true to the Age of Sigmar era for Warhammer, and Chaos, or the Power of Destruction, or you can DIAF.
Mike, I'm going to let you go first. You got anything on Warhammer?
I've heard so much about this game, but I've never actually gotten a chance to play it. So but you hear about it all the time. So
the bugs were very frustrating, but once you got past the bugs and kind of understood what the game was, you could have just an immense amount of fun on it.
So Stands in Fire just said the dynamic quests from Warhammer was a direct link there to Rift's public quests. Now, did Rift or Warhammer come out first?
Warhammer did.
Warhammer did. Okay. I'm curious too, Drac. I didn't ask you. Drac actually put out like a pre-show list, which was awesome on Twitter. Drac, what was your number 5? If you want to throw it in there, we'll keep track of yours as well here while we're going. So here's my thing with Warhammer. Leksur, if I'm wrong, you call me out on it right now. I have this weird memory of you complaining about WoW's overdone armor and oversized shoulder pads. Is that a correct statement or is that incorrect?
It is correct to a point, because the problem with World of Warcraft was that they just looked dumb. They look at the old Hunter set pieces from Molten Core. They just look flat out stupid.
Okay.
It was just big shoulder pads for the sake of having big shoulder pads.
But don't you think Warhammer in its whole mythology was a big reason for that? Isn't Warhammer just massively overdone? And I'm not complaining, but it's massively overdone, that whole...
It is, but there's also a little more reasoning behind why it is that way. Okay. It's not so much in the Age of Sigmar era, more in the 40k era, but that's because the big shoulder pads came from the Space Marines, who are 7 foot to 8 foot tall, genetically engineered, 500-pound super soldiers.
Okay.
They're just big. All
right.
But World of Warcraft was influenced by Rogue Trader, and basically all the orcs and stuff from Warhammer, the early stuff.
Okay.
But so you can definitely make that link there.
Well, I like the dark. I like the dark and the violent side of it. That's one thing. When you have Warhammer, you know that's going to happen. I never played it because you said it. The first thing you said, it's known for its PvP. It's actually probably one of the bigger emulators out right now, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So people can check that out if you want to.
Emulator.
Yeah, if you guys haven't heard of it, there's an emulator out there for this that's actually apparently pretty good. I know that there's some issues with the people running it, but the game itself is pretty good.
It's called Return to Reckoning. All I can say is watch what you say in the public channels. The people who have ban privileges are kind of channel Nazis.
They don't
like anything. They will ban you over the most ridiculous thing.
Okay, so Drax number 5, so we're all aware, was WildStar for its innovative combat and rating.
I played their humor.
I played WildStar for 10 minutes. I bought it pre-launch, ready to go. 10 minutes is not fair. Probably about 10 hours. Couldn't get into it. It's such a hyped game right now. But all right. Anyway, Mica, you are up. Are you ready to go?
Yes.
All right, number 4 for Mica. World of Warcraft, bringing out the big boy at number 4.
Yeah. So I had to put this on there because even though World of Warcraft is it really popularized the MMO, and it really like brought a lot of attention to it, and it spawned a lot. Now it did spawn a lot of WoW clones because everybody wanted the same.
But we can't blame WoW for that. We can't.
No.
That's my frustration. WoW gets blamed for games being lazy and trying to steal money from them. So I'm sorry, I had to say it.
I mean, it really did a lot to popularize it. Now, I've actually recently just really started playing WoW. I haven't really ever played it, but with this new expansion coming out, it's like, and they say they're kind of, from my understanding, they're kind of resetting the game in a lot of ways, from levels to like how combat works and everything like that. So I'm just like, I'm going to check it out. So I put it on there. I put it on there mainly for what it's done for the genre.
Fair.
More than
I will hold my comments because everyone knows it's going to be somewhere on my list, but where would it be?
I have a feeling yours is going to be like a little higher up.
A little bit higher.
I mean, I agree that it should definitely be on the list. I played WoW for 5 years, I think.
You had to enjoy some of that.
I did, absolutely. My biggest problem was the community is just vile, toxic sludge.
I actually haven't run a dungeon yet into it. I think I'm level 30 something. I've yet to run a dungeon because of everything I've heard about the community. I actually don't want to enter a dungeon.
I just get that taste of bile in the back of my mouth whenever I think of World of Warcraft now. But also because the developers lost sight, like around Wrath of the Lich King, they lost sight of what the game really was at the heart of it. And then it took them quite a few expansions just to get back on track.
Yeah, they're in and out. After Lich King, it's an in and out thing. Did you notice that? Yeah. Like it's good, then bad, then good, then bad. Then it's really hard.
Isn't that when Activision stepped in?
I think it's because they're trying to get them out so fast that they start working on them as soon as the next one's done. A different team's working on it. And they don't know, this is my personal opinion, they don't know when something's going to be successful. So what happens is they design the game without maybe one of the new features, thinking, we're not sure how people are going to take it, so we're going to design without it. Then it takes off, but then the next thing gets rid of it. So you have these like dueling teams of creators constantly working on the next expansion. It's almost like the old Call of Duty thing, where like, remember that one of the companies was really good? I can't remember which one. It was like Infinity Ward and something else. It was the team that made Black Ops and the team that didn't. And at one point it was the team that made Black Ops was horrible, but then it like switched and Black Ops became the good. It's kind of what is happening with them. I don't know. Yeah,
and to me, an MMO needs a little more stability. You can't be flip-flopping all the time because like me, it flip-flops so much that I can't go back. And I've been gone for so long that I can never go back. Doesn't matter how great the game is.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stay away long enough that I can't go back. That's so here's something quick. Hurricane actually said that in the chat here, Leksur, I don't know if you saw it, but they agree with Leksur. I've always loved having shoulder pads for visual reasons, but some of the sets on WoW were over the top, especially if you played a male orc or Turin. Then Stands in Fire said for the Horde, so he must smell bad. I said for the Alliance. Let's see. Hurricane says he played both sides, each banner proudly in his man cave. If you guys can see, like right here, that's my Alliance little thing back there. So, okay.
So, and I gotta say, with the whole shoulder pads thing, I just kind of, in my head, they're just paying homage to the Golden Girls because they always have those big shoulders. So I always think Golden Girls when I think WoW.
The quote of the night. I always think Golden Girls when I think WoW.
Old and most of them are dead.
All right, so moving on to my number 4. I'm going to go with Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn.
Wow.
So, did you not think this was going to be on my list?
No, not at all.
It's my number 4.
Tooth and nail when it comes to playing this.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. So, Drac, we'll get to you after I reveal mine here. So I played Final Fantasy XIV at launch, Realm Reborn. I did not play the broken, chaotic mess. And it was phenomenal. And it was very interesting coming from WoW because it's a very, everybody says things are WoW clones. And I think this game gets tossed into that category of being a WoW clone. But they did a lot of things that were pretty risky and it worked. And one of them was reducing the speed of the global cooldown. And when I first got into this game and the global cooldown seemed almost twice, it probably wasn't, but it seemed like twice as long, which meant like you were sitting there in between attacks for what felt like quite a bit of time. But it didn't make the combat any less punishing because if you weren't properly hitting things, this game punished you way more than WoW did. And there was really good things about this game. The classes were unique. The job class system was phenomenal. And then when I say the classes were unique, if you played a monk, there was positional combat. You don't see that a lot. You had attacks on the side, you had attacks on the back, and as you were fighting as a monk, and tell me how badass this feels. You're fighting in the back and you have to slide over and strafe to their side and hit them with a kick, then go back. Like I'm actually doing it in my chair right now. It's funny. But then like you go back and you hit them in the back. Like there was this really strategic combat with that. Tanking was meaningful in the beginning. The dungeons were really fun. Here's where this game could never be above number 4 for me. The single player forced story mode is an absolute deal breaker for this game for me. I played Realm Reborn when it came out. I absolutely loved it. I played a paladin, I had a summoner, and I had a monk, and I had them all maxed, and I loved the hell out of all of them. And I ended up maining a summoner and scholar because they're the same soul. A little cheesy, but long story. So I did all the primal raids when they were out, and I started the first couple turns of, what was it, Bahamut was the first raids, like turn 1, turn 2. So I think I did maybe like turn 1, turn 2. Like that's as far as I got. So here's me. I play this game to completion. I start raiding. I quit. New expansion comes out. Heavensward. This looks really cool. I'd really like to play this game. So keep in mind, I've played so much of this game, tons of hours. I get the expansion. I'm ready to go. What is this? They added in 70 new story quests on me? Well, I'll just skip them. Oh, no, you can't just skip them. You have to do 70 goddamn story missions that literally take you across. If you don't like quests where it's like, go talk to this guy on this part of the world and then go talk to this, don't play this game because literally every quest is start at Antarctica and then go to Australia and then can you please go back to Canada and then you can go over to China and that's the people we need you to talk to. And it's all single player. It's all story. And I get it, guys. I totally understand Final Fantasy is built on a single player MMORPG experience with tons of lore. 100%. I understand it. It's okay. But don't force me to do, and then it got worse. Like I tried to play for, what's the one that just came out, Mica, with the dancer? What was that called?
Shadowbringers.
I tried to play Shadowbringers, but I didn't play, was it Blood something? Stormblood? I didn't play that. So I caught up with Heavensward and did more endgame content, which was frustrating. I caught up and did it. Then I come back, I didn't finish the added on story quests, and then they put out a whole expansion of what I think was somewhere around 230 story quests. So I had to do the added in freaking quests from the one I played, Heavensward. Then I had to do 200. I couldn't even, I told myself, I'm going to do it. After 3 days and not putting a dent in the quests, I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be able to play this expansion, and I quit. And I don't think I can ever go back. And here's the worst part. They put it behind Cash Shop because they know it's freaking ridiculous. So like, well, we're not going to change it, but you can buy a skip. And it's not just buy one skip. You have to buy like 2 skips. Oh, it's so frustrating. Okay.
It's just one skip.
Don't you have to buy like the class skip thing too, or you won't have enough experience?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you do have to do a class skip if you don't want to level one up.
Yeah, it's rough. So that's my rant. It's a great game, but ugh.
See, that's funny because I feel the same way.
So much goodness. You're missing so much goodness in that story, though, because the whole, I mean, the rating and stuff is okay, but the main thing about that game is the story is so good, especially with this last expansion. oh my God, this is one of those few games where I sit at my computer and I can sit here and I can just cry at some of these cutscenes and stuff like that because they're so beautifully done. You get to know the characters so well. The lore is so rich and everything. And it's just, it's so good.
I got the same problem. I wanted to play the Dark Knight. Everybody knows me. Everyone knows I love aggressive tanking. And the Dark Knight is just, that's my soul. And everyone's like, oh, well, you can just play a warrior. But I don't want to play a warrior because when I try to play a warrior, I'm playing a marauder first. And and my grandmother can swing an axe faster than he can. It drives me nuts. And I mean, I know it gets better with ability and stuff like the game forced me to play something I don't want to play. I've played a ninja. I have played a bard. And the whole time,
I don't want to talk about bard. I put this on my list and I'm fighting against it now.
I know. And it's funny that Drax says what Drax says because that was almost my number 4.
Yeah, so Drac, so anything more about Final Fantasy? I'm sure we're going to hear more about Final Fantasy 14 because Mike is here. So we're going to hear more about it. Let's read a couple of comments before we go into our thirds. Let's see. Bronson says, is it just me or is everyone else losing respect for me as an MMO player? What aspect? I don't want a single player experience. Everyone who likes EQ should have just gave me 10,000 points right there. Let's see here. 14 was so fun at launch. It was one of the best launch experiences I've ever played. 100% agree with that.
So one thing they are doing, I will say one thing they are doing, and is they are streamlining actually with this next patch that's coming out here in probably a few weeks. They're streamlining the game. It's the first part of it where they're taking all the 1 through 50 quests, all the quests from Realm Reborn, and they're streamlining them so people can get through them really quick, really easy, and they don't have to do all the side crap. They don't have to do all the fetch quests and everything. So
I'm told that. So let's get Drax in here. Drac had number 4 Dark Age of Camelot. So they like the 3-rem struggle, Hibernia for life, favorite PvP. So I don't care. No, I'm kidding. But here's the best part. So chat. Do you agree with Bronson? If you look at the bottom 2, Bronson is saying that my list is the most obscure. Leksur, he's putting my list as the most obscure over yours.
Not even close.
I mean, I would say that Mica's, the placements are odd, but he's definitely got MMORPGs everybody knows.
They're pretty much along the main road there.
Yeah. A little out of order.
I'm not saying that as an insult or anything.
No. But it's interesting. So Bronson says mine's the most obscure. Are you so far with these shown? What do you guys think? Am I the most obscure so far? So that's interesting.
I think that take away Warhammer Online, take away A Realm Reborn, and then it comes down to Phantasy Star Online, which to most PC players doesn't mean a thing. Yeah. Then you got Astaria, which I guarantee you most people haven't heard of to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
So we're kind of tied.
Yeah.
I don't think A Realm Reborn. I don't think Final Fantasy 14 is obscure at all. It's right under.
No, he's talking about Phantasy Star.
Oh, okay.
He said take Realm Reborn out. So, all right. Theric says, I don't know. Astaria is pretty obscure.
I can get more obscure. I could have said Rhizome.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's go with number 3. Leksur, I'm going to show your number 3 here.
Yeah, well, number 3 is going to be...
talking about more obscure.
Firefall! God, I love that game! Oh my god. This was a cel-shaded third-person action, futuristic kind of MMO.
Okay.
It was.
It looks like they stole their logo from StarCraft.
Kinda, in a way, because it was created by Mark Kern, who worked on StarCraft and World of Warcraft. And I mean, the game had so much promise right up until Mark was forced out of Red 5 Studio, and everything kind of went to shit.
Stands in Fire just asked, didn't Firefall die at the feet of PlanetSide 2?
No. Firefall died. Firefall died because a Chinese company bought it and they tried to release it in China with no changes at all, and they sold, I think, 26 copies. Right there, they shut down the game. But I mean, it was an interesting game where you, as a player, you level up frames. Frames are your classes.
Okay.
Those classes, you could swap out different abilities. You could mod the abilities a little bit. Then you have gear on top of that. There were raids. There were dungeons. There just wasn't a lot of them, and there was 4 open world zones. I think 5 by the time it was shut down. I don't count the 5th one because it was bad.
So it was a game that needed to have life, like it needed to have support to build itself to what it was supposed to be.
It was a game that had more potential than I've ever seen in a game. That was almost a for sure thing. And then because the guy who had the vision got forced out, it just crumbled away.
You put that ahead of Warhammer.
I did, because I had something like 2,000 hours in Firefall.
Okay. And when a game dies like that, if you get that feel.
Yeah, I mean, also because I hate to be the kind of guy that plugs other games, but Mark Kern is making a spiritual successor to Firefall.
Why? You're allowed to do that.
I can't be more excited. It's called Ember, EM8ER. And he's going completely solo on this, no publisher, and I can't wait because I'm going to be there foaming at the mouth. The only game that I'll be more excited to play at this point is kind of like, Pantheon, but for obvious reasons.
Better say Pantheon. Just kidding.
Yeah, but like, if I'm not in Pantheon, I'm going to be in Ember.
All right. Well, Stands in Fire asked you if you were one of those 26. How many of those 26 people that bought the game were you? Just kidding.
Well, that was the ones in China.
That was after. Okay.
Yeah, in North America and Europe, it did fairly well. I mean, there used to be open world bosses that would spawn. Bronto King. And we would have like 400 people fighting him. And they're all flying around with jet boots and shooting missiles and stuff. I mean, it was good fun.
All right. Micah, anything on that one?
No, never heard of that one either.
I haven't heard of it either. I'm not gonna lie. Well,
Leksur's good. Leksur's being like that whole like what's the word?
He's like the
whole like hipster gamer where he's like, I'm really obscure title.
I'm not a hipster. I don't have a ponytail.
Yeah. Leksur likes MMORPGs until they're popular. No, I'm kidding. No,
I don't feel like games that really try to push the envelope.
Yeah. Be something. Your games try to be different, whereas some of ours we like are clones. So I get it. I'll give you credit.
If you, as a developer, try to push the envelope and try to do your thing, I will have multitudes of respect for you. But the minute you start caving and just catering to the lowest common denominator, then I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, I could use it as toilet paper.
Yeah, Brunson feels your pain. And Stands in Fire says you only play craft MMOs. All right, Mike, are you ready for your number 3?
I'm ready.
Here we go. You have it up. Can you see it?
Yep. Elder Scrolls Online, ESO. There's a few reasons.
Oh, Leksur's already mad. Keep going.
So there's a couple reasons I really like this game and a couple reasons I really dislike this game, which is why I didn't make any higher. I've always had fun in this game. I do like their subscription model, where the subscription is
buy to play,
not mandatory. You just get it and you get a few bonuses, and plus they give you money towards their cash shop equaling the amount you paid for your sub. I really like that. The things that I dislike about this game, though, is I think that combat really needs some work because it's really basically boring. And I am so spoiled with cinematic cutscenes, and the lore is so good with Elder Scrolls Online, but you just have this NPC standing there emoting as they're talking, and it just kind of is boring too. So while there's while there is a lot of good, there's just the bad is just bad enough to keep me from playing this regularly.
All right. Leksur, it looks like you want to speak on this because you when that came up, your face just and I want to say thank you for the bits to Clem. But Leksur, the floor is yours before I open up on this one.
To me, now I've played every Elder Scrolls game there is. To me, Elder Scrolls is a MMO prototype with just a facelift. Because the combat is flat and boring. PvP is, especially right now, PvP is absolutely atrocious. It feels like the designers, they try to do things to make things more balanced, and they just completely destroy what little balance there was to begin with. I'm fine if there's no set classes, but like with the morphing of abilities, they didn't go far enough.
I thought they did have set classes because I heard people are like necromancers and stuff.
They have set classes, but you can be whatever you want to be. You can be a healer, you can be a tank, you can be a DPS.
So it's not set. It's set classes, but not set roles.
Right. My bad. I misspoke.
Yeah, you could be a necromancer, tank, healer, or DPS.
Right. Now this thing that I don't like is mostly because of me. This has nothing to do with the game itself, but as a career tank, my mindset has always been if something's angry at my party, it needs to be trying to eat my face. You can't do that in Elder Scrolls. It's tanking in Elder Scrolls is you focus on the big guy and let everyone else deal with their own crap. And that just bugs me to no end. It makes me feel like I can't do my job because I'm not keeping them safe. So when I do play Elder Scrolls Online, I play a healer because I feel like I can't tank, even though technically I'm doing my job, taking the big thing. But I find even tanking first person, third person, trying to do combat is just so floaty and flat and just...
It's very AoE too, isn't it? It's super pull everything.
Everything is very AoE.
So,
which drives me nuts.
I'm going to say
that's why I said the combat's not really that great in it. But I mean, the game is beautiful. It's got a lot going. The housing system is amazing. It's got a lot of going for it. But
so, Mica, is it safe to say that you're a fan of like all the other Elder Scrolls games too, right? So there's the back end lore and the games themselves that you enjoy that help you enjoy this game more. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say something super controversial. I liked Morrowind. What was after Morrowind? Oblivion.
Oh man, now you're... Yeah.
And Skyrim was okay. But here's my thing. They have the worst character models in any fantasy game that's ever existed in their entire life.
They got stubby little legs.
The lizard people look identical to the humans. They just got a weird lizard face. Like, it is like in the elves. Like, listen, I hate elves, but these elves are the shittiest elves I've ever seen. The dark elves are super ugly.
This is the only game I refuse to play elves in because the elves are so ugly in the game.
They took one character model and used sliders to make all the other ones. Is really what I believe. So, and that's in any of the games, like in any of them, and it's. They're a buggy mess. All those games are a buggy mess. This game, from what I know, is buggy. Maybe not as bad as some of their other Bethesda games. And here's my thing. Like, so in a game like World of Warcraft that you said already, or Final Fantasy, you don't just go fight Bahamut. In this stupid game, you can go wherever the hell you want at any time because the whole game scales to your level. Like, what? Like, you want to take the whole danger out of a world? Just make everything your level. Oh, I hate it. This game.
I'm a firm believer. After Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online, I firmly believe that Bethesda couldn't make an MMO if you had Blizzard hand them the code to World of Warcraft.
And we were actually talking about this before the show because I've been playing Fallout 76 too. And I was saying that it's to the point where I don't even notice it anymore. I'm just like, oh, it's a Bethesda game. And it's going to be buggy. And it's going to be buggy. It's just something you kind of expect. And it's like, well, if I want to play, if I enjoy Elder Scrolls, I just kind of deal with it. And and we were talking about how it should be like that, but it's just kind of become like
every time someone tells me Bethesda's a AAA studio, I have to laugh. I'm like, I wouldn't even grade it a B.
Hey, listen, Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 were amazing. Morrowind for its time was amazing. Oblivion was amazing. Skyrim was meh.
Daggerfall was amazing too. I mean, they were all wonderful games. But then they start trying to get in the MMO space, and it's like, who is deciding what you guys are doing? Or
well, here's I'm gonna jump off of Bethesda here, but I do have to say one last thing because you brought it up, Mica. You brought up Fallout. Let's take Fallout, this great game about interacting with the world, and let's take the whole world out and get rid of every NPC. What? Who made that decision for Fallout 76? Like, well, okay, I'm done. I can't talk about that anymore. Yeah,
that made no sense.
Okay, Hiya tried to get me to play that game so much. He's like, "It's good, man. Don't listen to the hype." I couldn't do it.
It's not even worth the drive space.
All right, here's I'm gonna skip to my number 3 here. Here we go. Bleeding Soul. I just reinstalled this today, by the way. You knew it was coming, you said?
I knew it was coming. I thought it was going to be number 2.
It was close. It was a close number 2. One super great guy says he's out. I loved Bleeding Soul. I met Hiya there, so one of my best friends in the world. It's the only game that I vastly enjoyed PvP because it felt like playing Street Fighter more than it felt like playing an MMO, if that makes any sense. It had absolutely great controller play, and I was a big fan. Even on PC, I played it with a controller, and it was just really well done. The classes were super unique and challenging. Even the easiest class, which I did play as my main towards the end, which was Summoner, it was easy to be good, but if you were great, you were an unstoppable monster. And like the dungeons were great. The raids were fantastic. The graphics were good. And there was it was like a Horde versus Alliance type thing. You had red versus blue essentially. And the political side of that was really interesting to me. It was a grind. Like if you say you liked the grind in EverQuest, this game was a goddamn grind. And it was, listen, openly admitted, the cash shop would help you through it. It would. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's how it was. And this is the first and only cash shop that I ever jumped into hard, like real hard. I will tell you, I spent well over $1,000 on this game. And there were times I regretted it, but at the end of the day, I never really did. It was an internal fight. I don't know that I'd ever jump into a cash shop like I did in this game, and I do not support cash shops, but I loved the game. The transmogging was incredible. There was a system in this game where you could, as a guild, gather mats. We gathered mats for 2 months to make a guild uniform, and you put them into a guild crafting system, and we made a uniform that we could wear that was our guild specific uniform. We picked the color of the laces, the style of the laces, the style of the shoulders, the mask that went with it. You designed this thing, and the one we designed, it was hard as hell. Like there was stuff that wasn't out yet, and we're like, no, this is the one we want, right? And then once you design it, you buy like a guild uniform, and it just looks like that. And that was odd. Like the moment we got the pieces to put this outfit together was incredible. The classes, again, very unique from each other, played completely different. The PvP was incredible, and that's the first and last time you hear me say that. It was probably because my class was a beast. There was bad things about it too. The cash shop was bad. There were race locks, not gender, but race locks. And it's just, as far as Korean MMOs go, this is the best one I've ever played, personally. So I'm going to shut up. And I know that you guys, Leksur, you were ready to talk. What are your thoughts?
I will give it a little bit of props. Blade and Soul was a pretty fun game. It's probably one of the better games to come out of Korea. Mind you, Korean game knocks it down to like 10 plus to begin with, because I'm sorry, they generally have no freaking idea how to even make a UI. Then that's one of the things that got me. the UI was atrocious. I mean, every 10 seconds you had something popping up in your face. Oh, buy this. Oh, you could use this. Hey, how about you do this? And it's like, just let me play the game, please. That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you need to do this quest? Just click on the quest. And it's like, I'll run you there. It's just like, I'm not playing the game. I'm playing a clicking game. When I did actually get a chance to play it, I did enjoy it. But, you know, you got the cash up, click to move, and you've got the atrocious eye-bleeding UI, you know, and your standard lolly girl kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I'm out.
Have you seen much on this game, Mica?
I hear Korean MMO, and nope. I don't even bother to look at them.
I did download it today. If Hiya hears this, he's been trying to get me to re-download. I re-downloaded it today to look at it. I'm going to make sure my PayPal's not attached first, but...
yeah, I have this aversion to Korean MMOs because they just always to me the number one, it looks like they have one developer kit and they just kind of reconfigure stuff.
I gotta disagree. This game, when it came out, was one of the most beautiful. The game that beat this in graphics was BDO. Then everything started to look like BDO. But this game, when it came out, was unbelievably beautiful. And here's the thing. And I know I'm defending, but this game, look at all the games on the board. Which one has a kung fu martial arts background? And what other game does? Well,
if you listen to me PvP in World of Warcraft, you would assume it was that one.
Blade and Soul's the only kung fu really deep based combat art, like wushu type of like really cool game I've ever played like that, and there's not many of them out there. I love that. I mean, I just loved everything. I love that game. All the bad was worth it. So I don't know.
That's why it's a personal list.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And Drac says Guild Wars 2 was his number 3. Like the story, like the dungeons, did public quests better than Warhammer. Oh, he's throwing a zing at you there. Exploration and jumping puzzles were fun and frustrating. I hated the jumping puzzles. I will agree that yes, the Guild Wars 2 dynamic quests were better than Warhammer Online's, but you got to give props to the originator of it. And to be honest, Guild Wars 2, that when they were showing the game for the first time, they were touting that, oh, these are so dynamic. It's like, no, they're not. They're scripted. You win, this happens. You lose, this happens. There is no dynamic besides the fact that some of it's on a timer. That's the only real dynamic thing about it. Otherwise, it's just a scripted quest. All right, we're getting into our top 2. Lex, are you ready?
I am.
Number 2.
My number 2 is Anarchy Online. The only good game to come out of Funcom.
Oh, we could disagree on that. Didn't they make City Heroes?
No, I don't think they did.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't believe they did. I don't remember. I want to say that was like NC Soft or something.
Yeah, actually, I might be confusing them. Yeah, CAD. They made Secret World. Okay, CAD.
Yeah. Anarchy Online is a game where if you wanted to actually flex your math muscles, you could push yourself really far in that game. Me and some friends played it, and we would have spreadsheets set up with all the crazy calculations so that we could twink ourselves. But the problem is that it wasn't your standard idea of twinking. It wasn't like, oh, here's some armor you'd never be able to get. This is all legitimate ways that you can skew the numbers in your favor. And I mean, it's so satisfying to be a player sitting there going, okay, technically this ability is for level 45 and I'm level 20. Well, I quest enough to do these, to get these items, I find this item, I get a buff here, I do this, and all of a sudden now I can put it on and I can use it. You're running around using an ability that's 20 levels higher than you. You can do the same thing with armor. But it was all a numbers game. We spent hours at our spreadsheets trying to figure out how we can get to a certain point in our gear or our abilities. I actually played a healer in this game, and I enjoyed it immensely. And I know it's a really odd thing for me to say.
No, I mean, people who are into PvP, this game's always held a pretty high standard. It
was fun in PvP for quite a while until things kind of, as the story is old as time. The people making the MMO decided, hey, this would be a good idea. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But I mean, they had so many interesting ideas throughout the lifespan of the game. I mean, you had a metaphysicist who had 3 pets. He had a healing pet, a CC pet, and a damage pet that you actually controlled independently. That wasn't a huge pain. You would think that it'd be a massive, just gigantic nuisance to have to deal with them, but it really wasn't. You had, your typical kind of wizard. You had everybody of these like 12 or 14 classes had a very specific role, and they were all unique in their own way. Everything, and there's just so much about that game that I miss. In the Shadowlands expansion, they kind of went a little more high fantasy with it, even though it's a sci-fi game, and they pulled it off phenomenally.
I struggle in sci-fi. I really do. Like, Phantasy Star Online is a mixture. Sci-fi is a rough thing for me. It really is.
It's hard to be right.
Even in like movies and TV, like I like Star Trek because it was goofy, the original. But like even in movies, like the only sci-fi movie I love are like things that aren't directly sci-fi. Like one of my favorite movies is Event Horizon, right? Like Event Horizon is a horror movie. It's set in space, but I look at it more as a horror movie and it's really cool, right? This game was tough for me. It was PvP focused at least a lot in the early days. I felt like maybe I read that wrong. It came. When did it come out? What was it against? Was it EQ and WoW?
EQ was its main competitor,
and then WoW, right? Yeah. There's no way I'm leaving either of those games to play a game like that. It would have been tough for me.
I mean, teach their own.
Yeah.
They had very interesting takes on classes, even the races. Like one thing from the Shadowlands expansion, you had a crafter create a pocket boss, which was like a boss in a little container. You go to a very specific platform and you click it and it spawns this boss. But the kicker is the person who spawns it goes down to 1 hit point and has aggro. So
it's weird. I mean, there's definitely interesting things. Mica, have you know of it? I'm sure you've heard of it. Have you really done much with it or?
Nope. I'm like, I have no clue what anything on Leksur's list is.
I love it. That's why this is great. And we didn't plan this, guys. Like, I knew the lists ahead of time because I have to make the interface, but that's the legitimate, that's all we share. Pretty interesting. Yeah, Leksur, you're going to know this, and I don't think it's on your list. What was the game where you had PvP combat and whoever won the fight got to go into the middle of the planet and like harvest for a short period of time? Do you remember that?
Oh God, what was that?
And then you could harvest and then the world fight would start again and you'd have to leave. If you know in chat, name that game because I can't think of it off the top of my head. And I always confused it with Anarchy Online. But like you would have these giant epic wars and then whoever won was able to craft the core and you get this like special metal and stuff. And then you'd run out of time and you'd have to leave. I can't remember what the name of that game was, but I always confused that with Anarchy Online. And it's not Anarchy Online, obviously, but I can't remember.
That's going to drive me nuts. I remember it.
Yeah. I can't ever remember that name of that game.
Yeah.
All right, Mica, are you ready for number 2? We're getting to the end here. I want to say hi to Pi who jumped in. There's been a few people who have jumped in, and I do want to thank you, Royal Leo Wolf, LT Binks, Sistari. Thank you guys for the follows. Really do appreciate that. Don't mean to ignore that when we're chatting. I just kind of want to let it flow. So, Mica, your number 2 is coming up,
which will surprise people, actually, because I'm sure people thought this was going to be my number 1.
Not me when I saw it.
But yes, Final Fantasy 14. And the reason this is number 2 on my list is I have been playing Final Fantasy 14. I was one of the original testers of the original game back in 2010. I did all the testing for it. It came out. I actually was just like, well, they took none of our advice while testing, so I'm not going to play this anymore. And about a week after I quit, Yoshida took over and he said, hey, we're going to reboot the game, but we're going to keep it running. We want you all here, keep going. And I stuck with it throughout the entirety of version 1. I was there till the servers went offline. And then I was back when the servers came back online for Realm Reborn, and I've just kind of been there ever since. I did run a guild in there for a long time, don't have one anymore, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where this game has so much, like, it's almost like it's my baby because I've been with it for so long. It's just kind of like
full life cycle.
Yeah, and just kind of like, and it's like I've seen through the good, I've seen through the bad.
In all fairness, too, Mica, you have been just as down as you've been up on this game. So I'm going to give you mad credit for that, because you'll be the first guy to be like, "This is stupid." So
yeah, I'm very critical of the game, but it's like and it's kind of one of those things. I'm critical because I care, sort of things. And like we were talking about earlier, it is hard to get through. It is hard to get through the story, but the story is so good, especially right now. And I mean, yeah,
is Final Fantasy 14 the only Japanese MMORPG? Because it's not a Korean MMORPG, but is it the quintessential Japanese MMORPG? Is that how you'd say it?
Probably. It's probably the biggest RPG. Like, yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy is probably the biggest RPG that's ever come out of.
It was like the counter to NA EverQuest was Japanese Final Fantasy, right? So yeah. We've talked a lot about this. I don't want to keep going into it a lot, but the one thing you brought up that we didn't talk about was the whole Reborn part of it. And I got to tell you guys that Final Fantasy 14 did something that I will comfortably say will never happen again. It's the only time it happened, and I don't think it'll ever happen again. That game came out, Final Fantasy 14 was garbage. It was a garbage game. And they had the balls to say, "We're not letting this happen to our franchise." And they literally took the game down for a year and rebuilt the entire game. Like
they kept it online for 2 years in that state, and they just kind of like built on it, and then they took it down for about a year.
And they completely put out a new game. Completely.
I don't care who you are. You've got to give a company or a dev team respect for that. They cared so much about their game that they were willing to rebuild it. That takes a lot of guts.
And they bet their company on it, because if 14 wouldn't have made it, they would have gone under.
And Square was in big trouble at that time.
It was such an experience to go through all that and to see like the way they pushed the story and the way for Delamod to come down, and just that I've never experienced a community like the version 1 Final Fantasy 14 community.
Yeah. And even Final Fantasy 14, when I played it, the community was really good. Like, I don't know how it is now, but it was really good in the launch.
Yeah, I mean, like back in version 1, though, I mean, we were all so close, and we were all online together all the time. We were in voice chat. We were using Vent at that time. That tells you how long ago that was.
Vent was great.
But we were, it's just kind of like, I mean, yeah. It was such a great experience, and you got to hear so much from the devs. The devs don't talk to us at all now, but they were very communicative back then.
Of course they were. They just rebooted their whole game.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an experience. I actually did a video on that final night of version 1, because that final night was so emotional for everybody involved. I mean, it was just such a great experience. And then, so yeah, it's my baby. I can't like ever walk away from it.
All right. We had a couple lists come out. We have to acknowledge those. People were throwing their 5s out. Guys, do this. This is the whole point of the show. Let's see here. We had Bronson throw out his top 5. You guys ready for this? Number 5, Ultima Online. Interesting. None of those on us. I didn't play it at all. Didn't seem like my cup of tea.
Well, my first one. I just take to it.
Yeah. Number 4, Warhammer Online. So some love and match there with you, Leksur. Number 3, Dark Age of Camelot. Also not into it. Wasn't, again, PvP and wasn't my thing.
I like that one too.
Number 2, EverQuest. So he's saving his number 1. He put EverQuest at number 2. So interested on that. We also had Hurricane throw out his list. 5, Tibia. He's talking about it. I haven't heard of that. I don't know what that is.
I played it for a little bit.
Number 4, EQ2. Number 3, Star Wars The Old Republic. And Mica, you had that. Someone had that. You had that, Leksur.
I did.
You replaced Astaria for that. So that's interesting. And number 2, EQ for him. And let's see here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to put up my number 2. Here we go. EverQuest. Yes, I love EverQuest. I have amazing memories of EverQuest, but it is my number 2 for sure. Listen, I mean, you know, I'm gonna give you guys a little hint for next week. We have the MMORPG loot coming up, right? Every piece of loot I think about comes from this game. And I didn't play it as long as I played my number 1, which is obviously a spoiler. Everyone knows at this point. But the memories of this game are easily top. Easily. You know, it was the experience of the day one, the chaos I had to go through trying to get a game that would work because I had a copy that the code was stolen out of. The endless days of school that I missed. The friends I played with. The obsessive camping. I camped one thing from Friday to Sunday night. We had a guy who set an alarm that went off every 5 or 10 minutes in the Cryptid Down here for that robe that dropped. And he camped it for over a week, sleeping in between poles. We would forget to eat. And then we would go to Denny's in Pittsburgh. And we would sit and we would eat, not had seeing each other all day. And then we would talk about EQ. And then we'd go back after we finally ate and play it again. When people say, what'd you do in high school? I think of playing EverQuest. I would dream of playing EverQuest and I wouldn't be in the game. I dream of sitting at my computer and playing it. Like that's, it had some of the most iconic moments. It was the first. The memories are phenomenal. Some of their classes are still the best renditions, the best bard I've ever played. It's the best enchanter I've ever played. Their melee, let's not get too crazy. The faction system was great. I mean, geez, Ixars and Kunark, and I mean, there was just so many good things to say about that game. Freeport, beginner areas, being drunk and falling off Kelethin. I can talk about this game for hours and hours on end, and I loved it. I loved the game. If it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't be talking to you guys today. And the best part is I didn't buy this for me. This wasn't on my radar when it came out. My girlfriend at the time, she was 15, I was 16. She bought it for me for my birthday. It came out right around my birthday. And if she didn't buy it for me, how different would this all be? So this game's impact was incredible. I know you guys all love EQ, but yeah, I mean, what more can I say? I'm sure Leksur, you have more. Yeah, and Mica, you, I don't know. What do you guys, do you have anything to say on this? Does the chat have anything to say?
I never got to experience this game.
No, I mean, it's true. It's true, right? So that's interesting. And so was that good?
I was gonna say, it's just because when I started playing MMOs, I went for name recognition and I didn't know EverQuest. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. And we can't, one of the things that I hate about EverQuest fans is the ones that get mad that people played WoW because they were younger. Shut up. Like, if you're alive when a game comes out, you play it. I'm mad at all you guys for not playing Pong. So kiss my ass.
I have even played Hello Kitty online because it's an MMO.
You played it because Butters was playing.
That community is hard freaking core, man. Oh my god.
We had another top 10 list, 2 top 10 lists come out. Let's throw them out before we get to our number ones. This show's a little longer, guys, because there's a lot to talk about with MMORPGs. I don't know that Rankin will go this long every week, but it's still not too bad. We have Old Wargoat said, here's his tops. Ultima Online, Guild Wars 2, WoW, PSO number 2, Old Wargoat. There you go. And number 1 for him, EverQuest. And then we had Pi, and if anyone doesn't know, Pi is actually from the Defend the Night team. He's their level designer. He said, he's going back. I'll read it backwards here. 5 is a tie between WoW and DDO. DDO is actually pretty good. Number 4, Arcade, great game. Until max level. That one's the opposite of most games. Loved it until max level. 3, Elite Dangerous, sci-fi. I've never played it. 2, Guild Wars 2, and his number 1 is EQ. Drac says number 2 for him was WoW. Even if you hated WoW, if you're an MMO gamer, you owe props to it and you've probably played it. Right? So let's see here. We have Marks who just put his out. We have EQ DDO tied for 5. 4, Guild Wars 2. 3, Rift. 2, Star Wars The Old Republic. And 1, a tie for EQ WoW. Lots of ties there. So here we go. Number one. Are you ready? Are you ready for your number one, Lex? And then after you give your number one and you explain why, feel free to give some honorable mentions. So,
okay, because I said there are a lot of honorable mentions.
Yeah. So here you go. Number one.
Yeah, my number one is, if there was ever any doubt, EverQuest. EverQuest came around during a very tough time for me. It quite literally saved my life. I was an alcoholic, drug addict, ready to end it all, and EverQuest came along and kind of gave me a sense of purpose, allowed me to make friends. I met my wife in EverQuest.
Awesome.
Everything good in my life I owe to EverQuest. I can tell you that the reason I'm breathing air right now is because of EverQuest. And I still play on emulated servers today with my guild. And while I'm certainly going to tell you it is far from a perfect game, it was a perfect fit for me at the time.
All right. What's your best memory? What's your best memory?
Oh, God. Honestly, I think my best memory has to be... It's a kind of a toss-up here, because obviously I can't say anything other than when I met my wife on a Vox raid.
Yeah, she would be mad, I'm sure. So
yeah, because she was a paladin, I was a warrior.
She's a paladin? You're married to a paladin?
I'm married. I sleep in the same bed as a paladin. And yeah, I know it's.
Does she know that you hate her existence? That's a weird marital thing.
Oh, she knows. She knows I have very little respect for paladins. But to be fair, she was a very hardworking paladin, and I'm damn sure of that.
Next thing we know, Minus is going to hook up with an elf.
You never know.
Watch your mouth.
You know,
so honorable mentions. Honorable mentions, Lex. I can't argue with the pick. It's it deserves to be there.
Have to go to Early Rift.
Okay.
The leveling experience of Star Wars: The Old Republic, because Endgame was atrocious and everything. Star Wars Galaxies, just because it was beyond the scope of anything anyone could have imagined at the time. Like I said, I played pretty much every MMO under the sun, and there has been aspects that I've enjoyed. Like I enjoyed Dark Age of Camelot. People even got me to play Maple Story too, and I mean,
did not play
it was fun. It was fun to think that someone of my age could play something like that with a niece or a nephew, and I could still use it to connect with them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I enjoy the game, but the fact that it gave me a way to connect with my nieces and nephews gives it an honorable mention, because I don't think EverQuest or even Vanguard or even WoW could possibly do that for me today.
All right.
I could mention them all for one reason or another.
All right. Good honorable mention list there. A couple more people throughout their top 5. We have let's see. We have Noin said 5 he's not sure, but 4 would be Guild Wars 1 it looks like. 3 would be ESO, 2 Vanguard, props for that hits me in the feels, and 1 EverQuest. And then we had Theric put his out, so 5 Guild Wars 1, 4 EQ 2, 3 Guild Wars 2. Oh wow, Theric, this list is not what I expected to be from you. 2 Vanguard, 1 EQ, those two I do. So interesting list there. And guys, again, throw your lists in if you have it there. I think somebody else threw theirs out. Who did I miss? Oh, Stands in Fire said number 5, Final Fantasy 14, number 4, WoW, number 3, The Secret World, number 2, ESO, and 1, Lord of the Rings he put. So, Mica, we're going to go to your number 1. Are you ready?
Yep. My number 1, of course, is Final Fantasy 11.
I knew it!
This one was easy for me.
Vanadil is my home. It will always be my home. I absolutely love this game so much. It was my first MMO. Like I said, when I started playing MMOs, it was all name recognition, and I played every single Final Fantasy game. I remember like barely being able to hold a controller and playing Final Fantasy 1 on my Nintendo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just Yeah. And I mean, the game was good. It still is, actually, because it still has a pretty decent population. But the content was good. Nothing ever outdated. Again,
you know, something interesting.
Never outdated.
I'm going to say something that might be controversial here, Mica, that actually is in your favor. For everyone who talks about how hard EQ was, I think Final Fantasy was way harder. I think Final Fantasy 11 was way harder to play than EQ.
Oh, that game was tough.
It was so. I remember. So I bought it for console. I think it was Xbox when Xbox ported it, and I ran out and I killed a rabbit, and I was like, "Sweet, okay, so what I'm gonna do as a thief." And then there's another rabbit right there, and it kills me in one hit. I'm like, "What the hell just happened?" Like, yeah, Mica. You know, it's interesting because I can't call it a mistake because the game was successful, but it was really weird how they tried to tie in Final Fantasy into that game so much in the interface that that's really what pushed me away from the game. Was like, you had the selection menu like you were playing a regular Final Fantasy game, and it was like you had to go menus deep to do an attack. And I get that with a controller it worked really well, but that really turned me off. But I got to give the game props. And Square was really smart too, Mica, because they knew that AQ had it on lock on PC. If that game would have came out for PC, it would have never existed. You wouldn't hear anything about it. But they said the market we can take, if we want to compete with EQ, there's a full market of console gamers that can't play this game. And we can use our... Yeah, good.
It's also Japanese, and most Japanese players, especially at that time, are mainly console players because the houses are so small there.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is not only was it that, but then you had this huge PS2 was huge at the time. Huge. So you had this amazing console coming off of PS1 to PS2, an untapped market. You had a franchise that, you know, is arguably the deepest franchise of lore that's maybe ever existed outside of like regular D&D stuff. So I mean, I can't crap on this game. It was, when I played it for the short time I did, it was too hard for me.
Yeah, the game. I mean, it definitely was challenging, and every time you died, you lost experience. So I mean, sometimes you would go through a raid, like you'd go through we called Dynamis Deathnamis because you die so much in it, and there was people who were actually leveling down, and then they'd be running around naked because they couldn't wear any of their gear, and you had to like build them back up, and it was just but it was so much fun, and we built. So Final Fantasy XI's guild, my guild in Final Fantasy XI spoiled me on guilds forever because I started my guild right when we were still all new players. It was a bunch of us. We had no clue what we were doing. We were in a party together, and I was just like, hey, why don't we just get a link shell and create a guild? And they were like, cool. And then all of a sudden I had this guild. I had to learn how to run it. But we all stayed together for like 5-6 years. We became great friends. And it was just, it's like we did everything together every week. We did every piece of content together. And it was just such a great, tight-knit group. Yeah. And like everybody had each other's backs, and we all looked out for each other, and we all supported each other. And it was just, the whole experience was just. And
let's give them some mad credit for the job system. Multi-classing, I mean, it was the first game to do it, and it's maybe one of the best still. So,
yeah, multi-classing, I that's good and bad because I can never decide what job I want to main.
Yeah.
But also, again, with the cinematic cutscenes and everything, and just how rich and everything it got, it just, yeah.
Leksur, did you have any experience with 11?
God, yeah. For the when it came out, I mean, the graphics have held up, but it's a beautiful, stunning game.
Yeah.
Their macro system did amazing things to bridge the gap between the American English speakers and the Japanese players. You could literally have a conversation with these little macro like keywords. It was amazing. The only thing I didn't really care for was the speed of combat and the fact that if you were looking for a group, you were just standing there because there wasn't really anything you could really do.
Yeah.
So it was like I'm in a group or I'm watching a movie on my other screen.
The combat was really slow, but amazingly, you really had to pay attention and you really had to be like on the ball with it.
those combos and such became a really big thing, and I loved it because it almost gave me a little twinge of nostalgia towards EverQuest with healing rotation.
Yeah.
Because it was literally like, okay, I'm casting this. They would have a pause, and there's like, okay, now you do yours, and you hit your macro, and having to sit in a group and say, okay, here's the combo that we're going to do. If you don't know how to make a macro, we'll help you. It's almost like you're kind of grouped up together, sitting around, trying to like hype yourselves up and get ready for the fight. It's kind of what it felt like. It was obvious that Square, it was the first MMO they ever made, and first thing they ever made for PC, because the game was obviously designed for console. Their play online system was just atrociously
it was a mess. On PC, when they tried to put it on PC, it was awful.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
It was
definitely console designed, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they had no clue about anything with the PC world. Given it's their first game, I give a pass on that, though.
The one thing that I actually just learned recently that I found really interesting, too, is the whole reason the combat and it was so deep within menus and everything was because Final Fantasy was known for that system of combat. Yeah. So they were trying to recreate that in an MMO format.
Yep.
And that's the whole reason that combat's so slow, because they could also make it more strategic that way. But that's why it's also so.
They tried to make it play like a 2D Final Fantasy, even though it wasn't. Yeah. It was weird.
I'd give them credit for trying.
Yeah.
They just didn't really seem to know their audience too well.
If I were ranking the best, most impactful that weren't myself influenced, it would be on my list probably. But for my personal, I couldn't put it on there. It wasn't my cup of tea. All right, number 1. So everyone says, and now the answer we all already know from me. So I did spice it up a little bit. It's not going to be groundbreaking.
The logo upside down.
World of Warcraft, and I'm going to highlight Legion. I love World of Warcraft. I love the downside of World of Warcraft. I love the upside of World of Warcraft. I think World of Warcraft, for those that dislike it, like incredibly, like it's the worst thing ever, didn't experience it. I truly believe that. And that just might be my favoritism showing. I think that there's so many misconceptions out there. I get so frustrated when I talk to people about WoW who have never played it, because they just repeat the Reddit language that honestly is bullshit. And that is usually like, WoW's easy. No, WoW's not easy. Leveling's easy. Learning your class isn't easy. Playing your class isn't easy. Raiding isn't easy. Mythic Plus is not easy. Knowing the intricate systems is not easy. Okay, you can say leveling is too easy, and then those same people didn't even get to max level. Oh, it's too boring. Okay, so you didn't play the game. It makes me so mad when people say that. As someone who played WoW for 14 years, who played the bad expansions, who played the good expansions, Legion was incredible. And I was having a conversation about World of Warcraft today. And I was in one of the Discords I'm in. And they were talking about like EQ. EQ was the best MMORPG for what it was trying to be. And World of Warcraft is the best lore-based MMORPG that's ever existed. EverQuest wanted to put you in a game like a MUD or a tabletop, put you on an adventure and make you get lost. WoW wanted to tell you a story. They had backlogs of stories, amazing characters, lore for days. And they wanted to bring you in to this World of Warcraft. And they've done it better than any game, in my opinion, ever has. I would challenge anybody, and Mica, I'd challenge you even with Final Fantasy, which is tough to say. I would challenge anybody to give me iconic characters, like massively iconic characters that rival the iconic characters of World of Warcraft. And you can say it's not fair because they had all their other games and all this back lore. Final Fantasy could say the same thing. EverQuest could not. I'll give them credit on that. But when you talk of the greatest characters ever, in an MMORPG, WoW is pretty damn good. Pretty hard to debate, in my opinion. I love the math. I love the difficulty of class design. I love the in and out of set bonuses and how they built that and having to relearn your class. And again, I've never seen raid fights that are as good. Somebody linked me Bahamut Turn 5 today from Realm Reborn. And that was a pretty cool looking fight. But that fight was a standout for a difficult, challenging fight in Final Fantasy XIV, like this 13-minute long fight. Every WoW fight was like that. The level of ingenuity in WoW raid design, specifically from heroic level and up, is something that I pray is in Pantheon. And I fear that can't be because they're so epic that you can't do it in an open world, which I'm scared of. Has WoW had its downsides? Yes. Parts of Cataclysm were rough. I didn't like Pandas. I didn't play much of it. I played it, but not hardcore. Looking back, it was probably better than I gave it credit for. And while it had some good things, Draenor was pretty rough. BFA was a mixed bag, but Legion, Wrath of the Lich King, BC, I mean, they were incredible. I love them. I cried. I had tears come out of my eyes in some of the cutscenes in that game. BFA even, which gets trashed on. There's a scene where Jaina meets her parents finally, and you've been playing this game for 14 years, and that finally happened. And the cutscene is so beautiful. I remember when BFA had pre-cutscenes that you could watch before the expansion pieces would come out, like the one with Sarfang called Old Soldier. If you didn't see that and you like MMOs, whether you played it or not, go watch that right now. It is unbelievable. There's Jaina where she sings the story about her song that they made after her being the outcast daughter, and it's animated. They did the burning of the wood elf or the elf city with Sylvanas. I mean, Arthas. I mean, you just go on and on with these characters that you experienced every step of the way through the story with, unlike any other MMORPG I ever played. And that's why I fear that nothing may ever be as good, because there's not going to be a game that comes out that's going to have that deep of a story unless they pull it off with the new Lord of the Rings.
Let me ask you a question here real quick, because you're bringing up characters. I want to know, was Sylvanas, whatever, was she a good, like a character that you wanted more of? Because just from being an outsider looking in and everything, she seems like she would be just like one of these, like, oh, just kill her already.
So she was loved by everyone in the world until she became the leader of the Horde. That was it. Everyone loved her in her side role of being evil, demented, and twisted. But the Horde versus Alliance, which, by the way, give me a better Horde versus, like, give me a better faction versus faction system. Horde versus Alliance. I mean, I hate the Horde. Like, I legitimately hate the Horde. The Horde always fought that they were the honorable side. It's very interesting because if you look at World of Warcraft, you had the Alliance, right? The Alliance were seen as the good guys by a lot of people, and the Horde were seen as the bad guys, even people who played them. The reality of it is that the Alliance were the bad guys. They were, all the best villains came from the Alliance, to be honest. And
first.
Yeah, and they were always the ones that were expanding. They were the ones that were imperializing the world and making the standard, and anything that was savage or against it, they killed and burned, right? Arthas came from the Alliance. Jaina, when she was killing everybody, was from the Alliance. A lot of the villains were brought on from the Alliance. So the Horde were always fighting about, okay, we're evil, but we're honorable. And what happened is Sylvanas came in and took the honorable side out. And it really set people off about her. But they loved her until that.
Okay. Yeah, so, just like seeing like especially this latest trailer and stuff like that, it seems like one of those villains that have just overstayed their welcome, and you're just kind of like, just get rid of her already and move on. Yep. Just from an outsider perspective, it's what it seems.
I didn't like her when she wasn't undead.
Yeah, she was kind of a good guy for a while. So Leksur, what are your thoughts on WoW? I mean, it's not on your list.
Nope.
Not even on
my radar.
Not even on your radar. How long did you play it?
No. I played it for about 5 or 6 years, I think.
Okay. All right.
Because I played it from launch all the way up to the end of Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah.
And there were good times, there were bad times. It brought raids to a whole new level because I was a big time raider.
Yeah.
I loved my dungeon crawls. The minute dailies came in, kind of put the first nail in the coffin for me. Because as a protection warrior, it got to the point where all I did was do dailies.
Yeah.
If there were dailies, I had to do them or I couldn't raid. I just couldn't, because part of raiding was dying. And the best way to make money was your dailies.
Yep.
So
had good gold sinks though. For a lot of time, for a majority of the game, it had good gold sinks because of that.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff that they did right for the time and for the genre as a whole. Anyone that plays MMOs or even enjoys MMOs has to accept and acknowledge the fact that we do owe quite a bit to World of Warcraft and to Blizzard. To me, it comes down to there's a lot of things that Blizzard doesn't even bother to try to do right. Or they see it in another game that's coming out and they just flat out steal it if it fits or not. And I'm glad I left because the community and the changes to the tanking scared me away long before that. But like when you take a game that believed in crowd control, believed in, slogging. It completely got rid of it. It was literally pull everything, AE. If you don't survive, enough died so you can come back in and AE again. It went from being a very interesting game to just a 3-button mashing pile of...
That's where I'll disagree. Once Mythic Plus, like one Legion again, once that came in, the Mythic Plus. I was there for Legion. Yeah, I gotcha. So
once I'm gone from a game and I'm more than 2 expansions behind, I don't come back. Yeah. Because it takes me too long to catch up, especially with my schedule these days. So I don't even try to kid myself and saying I could come back.
Yeah.
I mean, do I regret not coming back for Legion? I do. I regret not making a Worgen Death Knight. I regret walking away from my
You would have been
Hunter.
Alliance? You would have been Alliance?
I played Horde at first because I was a Dark Hunter.
Okay, all right.
Then I moved to a Tarn Warrior. And then I moved in with my wife and she played Alliance and I swapped sides.
Okay.
And then I played a Warlock and eventually a Protection Warrior. But yeah.
So I'll leave it at this because we could go on forever about this for sure. So I'm going to leave it at this. Theric made a comment of, well, it had some lore to build upon. The Warcraft pre-lore wasn't too deep. Warcraft 1 and 2 are pretty basic. Warcraft 3 was very deep. And when I was playing Legion, they put out Chronicles books. And literally the first Chronicles book, which came out actually a little bit before Legion, was the story of all the gods in Legion. Like every little piece of story you would otherwise ignore was literally detailed with pages and pages. It was unreal. And I'm not a book reader. And I read those books and they blew my freaking mind how good they were. So Drac Attack #1 was EverQuest. Bronson was also WoW through Lich King. So we had a little different opinion there. And I'd say my honorable mentions were Terra at launch. We'll leave it at that.
I was about to be like, I'm going to slap you.
Terra at launch was fun. Secret World, I enjoyed greatly. I wish that DDO sucked at launch. I don't care what anyone says. I wish I would have went back sooner because I really do like DDO now as a group. Is really a fun game to get lost in. And I'll give a huge shout out to Launch Rift. Huge shout out. Funny story to everybody in my Facebook memories. It just popped up the other day. Be like, just killed Greenscale. Hell yeah. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. I should have shared that out. Yeah. So everybody, this is our first episode of Rank 'em. It's a little bit longer tonight. So it was about the length of Pantheon plus you. This is a pretty deep conversation. If you don't know how this show works, we're going to do different topics. Leksur's our guest tonight. Mica and myself will be hosting this, interacting with you in the chat. We want to hear what you have to say on all of our topics. It could be anything from MMORPGs to breakfast foods to movies to whatever you want. States in the country, whatever you want us to rank, we're going to rank on this show. And we are going to take votes for that on our YouTube page. So youtube.com/Pantheon Plus /community. will take you right to where we put our polls up and we try to vote in advance so we can prep for the show. So next week's show's already done. We're going to be voting. We're going to put our top 5 loot items in MMORPGs. This one's very hard. Nathan Napalm will be joining us as our guest for that. And we have a poll up right now for the week after for episode 3, which right now MMORPG villains, or no, just gaming villains are leading right now. So you can vote on that. Again, what the best part of this show is that, again, it's community based. Everything we try to do is community based. It's something different. It's not necessarily Pantheon themed, but we're trying to do more stuff just to bring the community bigger, get us talking, get us debating. I think that ranked lists are always very debatable. So thank you to everybody in the chat. We got a lot of lists from the chat. I love it. Drac, huge shout out to you. He prepped up our show on Twitter, put out his top 5 list, made this awesome blog post about it with the videos. It was freaking awesome. It got me so hyped up for the show. So good job to everybody who in the chat was participating. We thank you guys. We had a great crowd tonight. We'll see you next week for MMORPG Loot, and you tell us what we're going to be doing in week 3. So Mica, not a bad first show, right? Not too shabby. Not too shabby.
Can I say something really quick?
Of course.
Because this is a new show, and I want to put it out there that I have that Mica has questions thing. I want your answers. I put my first question out. That is basically just like an all for fun sort of thing where I'm going to be asking silly questions. You can submit them to me, and I'm just going to tease you basically about them.
Yeah, it's a very fun community show. Except his first question sucks, but
so the first question's out there.
Yeah, what is it? What is it?
Why are elves the best fantasy race? So like some of the questions are going to be just like pure fluff like that, just something silly. Some of them are going to be a little bit more fun or interesting. But yeah, so it's just something that we're doing for fun. Yeah. So
guys, you can send it. Here's the big thing about this. It doesn't need to be super produced. Like Mica's going to take your videos, your comments, your tweets. He's going to put it into it. If you want to take your phone and just shoot a quick selfie video for 30 seconds and send it to him, do it. It should be a lot of fun. So Ghostmind, thank you for that sub. And Old Wargoat, thank you as well. Guys, this was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's a new show. We'll see you on Thursday for Pantheon Plus You when we talk about the dev stream. And on Sundays, we do our podcast, which is called The Rewind, focused on it. And this weekend, Valor Pre-Alpha. If you want to check out Valor, we're going to be playing it Friday, Saturday, and possibly on Sunday. So come check it out. We're going to play a lot of Valor Pre-Alpha. So dev stream on Thursday, Pre-Alpha. Sunday, we're going to have our rewind. So we're going to try to keep it updated, community-based. Hopefully you guys like these shows. Let us know. Vote on the next one. We'll see you next week for Rankum.
See ya.